Sitting in Constitution Square, being warmed by the sun, I did not want to think about Max, but that was not very intelligent of me. What I needed to do was to think about Max objectively, not subjectively. I'm enough of a scientist's daughter to know that nothing can be thought about completely objectively. We all bring our own subjective bias to whatever we think about, but we have to recognize what our bias is so that we will be able to think as objectively as possible. Daddy had said that he could not even study his lab creatures totally objectively because to observe something is to change it. That was certainly true. Max had observed me and changed me. I had finished 2 cups of a thick, sweet coffee, and that was more than enough. I put my pen and journal back in the shoulder bag, crossed the street to the hotel, went up to my room, and napped. It seemed that all I wanted was sleep, and not just because of jet lag. Sleep is healing, Sandy said, and when I woke up, I did feel better. I had one foot in Athens and the present, and although the other foot was still across the Atlantic and dragging in the past, at least Max had made me aware of how complex we can be, so it did not surprise me to be in both worlds simultaneously. The problem was that I could not comprehend the vast span of Max's complexity. My parents are, as human beings go, complex, but also moderately consistent. I can count on them. And the bad people I've met have been so bad that I could count on them being bad, which does simplify things. But shouldn't I have learned that life is neither consistent nor simple? Why did it surprise me? I looked at the travel alarm I put on the bed table. Nearly 8. Just in time to dress and go up to the roof for dinner. I took a book so I wouldn't be lonely. I love to eat and read, but in a family like ours, I don't often have the opportunity, only if I'm sick enough to stay in bed, which doesn't happen often, and when it does, I'm usually too miserable to read. Sometimes, when I went over to Baudelaire, Max and I are together, with books open beside us on the table, and didn't talk unless one of us wanted to read something to the other. We usually ate in the screen part of the back veranda, rather than in the formal oval dining room. A breezeway went from the screen porch of the kitchen, which was slightly separated from the rest of the house in the old Southern manner. "Paul, listen to this," Max said. It's by a physicist, A.J. Wheeler. He says, "Nothing is more important about the quantum principle than this, that it destroys the concept of the world as sitting out there, with the observer safely separated from it by a 20-centimeter slab of plate glass. Even to observe so minuscule an object as an electron, we must shatter the glass." She made a movement with her hand as though breaking through glass, and her face was bright with interest as she looked up from the book, blinking silver eyes against the light of the candles and the hurricane globes. "We cannot separate ourselves from anything in the universe, not from other creatures, not from each other. But I had put the glass up between Max and me, erected a barrier so that we could no longer touch each other. I got up to the restaurant at 2 minutes before 8, and the doors were just opening. I was the only person there, though people did begin to trickle in after a few minutes. It was a beautiful open-air restaurant with lots of plants and candles on all the tables. I had a waiter who spoke good English, so I didn't try to practice my Greek. He was concerned that I was all alone, so I told him about Uncle Sandy and Aunt Rhea, and that they would be with me on Tuesday. But seemed to reassure him, and he began explaining the menu to me, and I didn't think it would be polite for me to tell him that I had a Greek aunt and was used to Greek food. Anyhow, I liked his taking care of me, and he was kind of surrogate uncle for an hour or so. 2 couples came in and were seated at tables between me and the view of the Acropolis, and I think one man thought I was staring at him when all I was trying to do was see the Parthenon. Dinner tasted good, really good, and that in itself was a big improvement. I ordered fruit and cheese, and my waiter told me that if I lingered over dessert and coffee, I see, if not here, Besson at Lumiere show at the Acropolis. I ate slices of pear with brie, a French rather than a Greek dessert. I do have a sweet tooth, and I'm not fond of baklava or any of the other pastries dripping with syrup. Spraying the soft brie on a crisp slice of pear. I felt a presence behind me, thought it was the waiter, and turned. It was the black-haired kid who raised his eyebrow at me while we were sitting in Constitution Square, and he was tall, taller than I. "Hi, Red," he said. If Sandy and Rhea had been with me as planned, I'd have ignored him. But likely, if I'd been with Sandy and Rhea, he wouldn't have spoken. I intensely disliked being called Red. "Saw you walk over to the King George for the square this afternoon," he said. "I'm Zachary Gray from California. You are American, aren't you?" "Yes." Did I really want to talk to this guy? "May I sit down?" "Feel free." I still wasn't sure. "What's your name and where are you from?" he asked. He was really spectacular looking, with black eyes and long black lashes. I envy him those lashes, though I'm happy with my own eyes. Kay would have fallen all over him. I didn't exactly want to fall over him, but I decided I did want him to sit down. I'm Polly O'Keefe, and I've come from an island partway between Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina. You don't have a southern accent, almost English. Middle Atlantic, I corrected him. I spent a lot of my childhood in Portugal. Max's accent was softly southern, not jarringly, just a gentle musical rhythm. "So, what are you doing all by your lonesome in Athens? Are your parents with you?" "My parents are home on Benice Island. I'm here for a week, and then I'm going to Cyprus. What are you doing here?" "Just bumming around. I'm taking a year off from college to wander around Europe and get some culture." He didn't look like the typical American backpacker. He looked like money, lots of money. The waiter came over and Zachary greeted him. "Hello, Aristides. This young lady's a friend of mine." "Yes?" I almost told Aristides I'd never seen him before in my life, but I shut my mouth on the words. I was lonely, and being picked up by a desirable young man was a new experience. Zachary ordered a bottle of Retsina. It's a white wine soaked over resin. It tastes like the Delphic Oracle. Rhea looks down her nose at Retsina, but Zachary went on. "There are other Greek wines which are much better. I just happen to like it." Aristides, by the way, means someone who is inflexibly just. "You speak Greek?" I asked. "A few words and phrases. You pick it up." A waiter's name, which means inflexibly just, would be fine to set down in that journal I was supposed to be keeping for school. "How do you happen to know Aristides?" "I like good food and pleasant places to eat it in, and Athens is my favorite city. I infinitely prefer it to Paris or London or Rome. How come you're going off to Cyprus right at the beginning of the school year? You don't look like a dropout." "I'm not. It's an educational trip. I'm going to be a gopher at a conference in Osceola. How'd you get chosen for the job?" "I'm not afraid of hard work," Zachary said. "Your parents must trust you. To let you come this way all alone and stay all by yourself at a hotel in Athens." "They do trust me," I said. I didn't think it necessary to say they had no idea I was all alone in Athens. "So, where's this place on Cyprus?" he asked. "Osceola. It's a small village with a conference center and what used to be a monastery." "Maybe we'll have a chance to get better acquainted before you go. I decided when I spotted you this afternoon that you were someone I wanted to know." How to respond to this? Kay would have known exactly the right thing to say. I didn't. "I'm glad your parents put you in the King George. You'll be safe here." His tone was condescending. What's on your agenda tomorrow?" I replied firmly, "I'm going on a bus tour." I didn't want this Zachary taking too much for granted. No, not a bus tour," Zachary said. "They're the pits. You're coming with me." He sounded very sure of himself. "I just happen to be free for the next couple of days, and I'll give you the $1 million tour." Aristides brought the wine in 2 glasses and looked at me questioningly. No, thank you, I said to him. Not after I spent all last night on a plane and my internal clock is all mixed up. Zachary started to protest, so I added, I'm underage anyhow, and Aristides nodded at me and took my glass away, then poured some for Zachary, who held the glass out to me. Take a sip at least. Because of Rhea's taste in wines, I never had Retsina. Maybe my tastes are low, but I liked it. It made me think of pine forests and Diana walking through fallen needles, her bow slung over her shoulder. Aristides moved away to serve at another table, and Zachary looked at me over the rim of his glass. Zachary really was in Athens on his own, while my being by myself was because of some kind of crisis in Sandy and Rhea's work. And I was suddenly grateful that my parents cared enough about me so that I was not like Zachary or the other kids checking in at American Express for their money while their parents did whatever parents do who just want their kids out of their hair. How old are you? Zachary asked. Nearly 17. He leaned toward me. It's hard to tell by looking at you. I don't thought you were older, except that your blue eyes are a child's. I'm not a child. Thank God. Tell me about this Beneseed Island where you live. It sounds as though it's out in the boonies. Beneseed makes the boonies look metropolitan, I said, but isolation is good for Daddy's work. What does he do? He's a marine biologist, I said briefly. We've learned never to talk about Daddy's experiments because they're in an incredibly sensitive area, and in the wrong hands could be disastrous. But Zachary seemed to expect me to say something more, so I added, my father needs a lot of solitude for experiments that take a long time to show any definitive results. Isn't it hard on you? How do you feel about all that solitude? I shrugged. I have 6 younger brothers and sisters, so it isn't all that solitary. He nearly swooned. 7 kids? What got into your parents? You Catholic or something? I shook my head. Sometimes I wondered myself what had got into my parents. It seemed to me that when we were living on Gaia, they felt that they had to repopulate the island all by themselves, so we had people to play with. Who of all of us would I send back? Not even Zan, who's the one who rose me like sandpaper. From my seat, I still had a good view, despite the middle-aged man who thought I was looking at him, and suddenly the walls of the Acropolis were lit by soft-moving lights, shifting from pale rose to green to blue. Look, I said. Zachary turned around in his chair and back. It's pretty vulgar. Rhea would have agree with him there. But I'll take it tomorrow night if you like. Again, I didn't know what to say. Yes? Kate says boys don't like it if you're too eager. The only person I'd ever dated was Rennie, and I'm not sure having pizza with Rennie even qualified as a date. He was an intern, and I was a kid who listened to him talk. I pushed the thought of Rennie away. If I was going to go out with Zachary the next day, I ought to know something more about him. When you finish gang culture and go back to college, where are you going? What are you planning to be? One at a time, he said. I'm going back to UCLA and I'll be studying law. My pa's a corporate lawyer, and I mean a multinational corporate lawyer with his finger in pies on every continent. As I thought, money. I watched the lights shimmer on the hillside and then blink off. I'm taking this year off to find out what I really want. I'll tell you what I want right now. I want to spend tomorrow with you. With me. This extremely gorgeous-looking young man wanted to spend the day with me. It sounded a lot better than going on a bus tour with a lot of people I didn't know. I wasn't sure I trusted Zachary, but I didn't have any reason to trust a lot of strangers on a bus either. Here we are, both on our own. Zachary reached across the table and lightly touched the tips of his fingers to mine, and I think we can have a good time together. Not only had I not mentioned to Zachary that my parents had no idea I was on my own, I also did not tell him about Sandy and Rhea. He went on, when I saw you in the square this afternoon, you reminded me of a wild pony, ready to shy off if anybody frightened you. You still have that look, as though you might suddenly leap up from your chair and vanish. You're sophisticated enough to be eating alone on the roof of the King George, and yet you have an innocence I haven't seen in anyone your age, and I don't know how long. For want of anything better to say, I murmured, I lived on islands most of my life. I was expecting to take off for Corfu tomorrow, but I'd much rather stay here and show you around. I'll rent a car so we can go off into the countryside. I was flattered. I suspected my cheeks were pink. Kay collects male animals as I collect specimens for Daddy, going out in the boat to get squid or whatever he needs. Nobody anywhere near my age had ever wanted to spend a day with me before. That sounds like fun, but I think right now I better go to bed and get a good night's sleep if I'm going to be awake for you tomorrow. I'll take you to your room, he said. No, thanks. I'll go myself. Don't you trust me? I shook my head. It isn't you. You are a wild little animal, he said. I'm not a wolf. I stood up. What time shall we meet tomorrow? 10 okay? Sure. I'll pick you up. What's your room number? I'll meet you in the lobby. Okay, pretty pal. I suppose you have every right to be suspicious of some guy who just picked you up. I'm staying at the Hilton, by the way, because it is a better view. Wait till you see it. Lobby of the King George, 10 a.m. tomorrow. I look forward to it, I said. I was glad I'd already signed for my meal, so I could just walk away without looking back. The view from my room at night was as beautiful as it had been in the full sunshine, although the sun at Lumiere show was long over. I looked at the ancient stones and wondered what all those centuries did to our own troubled time. Put it in more cosmic perspective, perhaps, but even if the Acropolis speaks of the pettiness and brevity of our mortal lives, while our lives are going on, they matter. The ancient stones seem lit from within. Sometimes I think the past has its own radiance. I turned from the balcony, switched on the lights, and ordered my breakfast for the next morning. Hanging the breakfast chat on the outside of the door. Breakfast in the room was my Uncle Sandy's suggestion. He and Rhea like to keep their mornings quiet when they're traveling, and I thought I might like that too. Continental breakfast, cafe au lait and croissants, and a book. It sounded good to me. The bed had been turned down while I was at dinner, and it looked so comfortable that I got undressed right away and climbed in, pushing the pillows up behind me, dutifully writing in the journal for school. Most certainly, the day in Athens had not been in the least what I had expected. No Sandy and Rhea, instead, a boy called Zachary. That was not the kind of thing to write down. I thought for a moment, then described the view from my room and mentioned Aristides, inflexibly just to prove that travel is truly educational. And then the phone rang. I was not entirely surprised to have it be my uncle Dennis calling from Boston. Sandy and Dennis had the special closest of twins. All Dennis wanted to know was that I was okay, that I wasn't lonely or frightened. He and Sandy used the long-distance phone as though it were local. They both feel that it's very important to keep in touch, and I suppose they can both afford it. Nevertheless, it awes me. He asked, what are your plans for tomorrow? I'm going sightseeing. All alone? No, I met this guy from California who knows a lot about Athens, and he's going to show me around. Are you sure he's okay? Who can be sure about anyone? I can take care of myself. Sure you can, Paul, but be careful. I'll be careful. Don't worry. Sorry Sammy got held up, but maybe it'll be good for you to have this time on your own. Don't tell Mother and Daddy. Never fear. Sandy's already made me promise. Strikes me he's being more protective of them than he is of you. He just wants me to grow up, I said. You will. You already are in many ways. We said goodbye, and I felt warmed by Dennis's call. Sandy had promised me, but what Max had called him about wouldn't go any further. He wouldn't tell anyone, even his twin, and I knew he hadn't. When I put the phone down, I looked at my school journal and decided I was too tired to write anymore. I slid down in bed and turned out the light. It was cool enough, with the balcony windows open to the night breeze, for me to snuggle under the covers. I plummeted into sleep and slept deep down dark for a couple of hours, and then woke up and felt myself floating to the surface. At first I thought I was in my familiar bed at home, but I heard street noises instead of the surf rolling and the wind in the palmettos. I was alone in a hotel in Athens. Sandy and Rhea were still in Washington, but Zachary Gray was not far away in the Hilton. Amazing. What time was it at home? Never mind. I better get body and mind on Greek time. I leaned on my elbow and peered at the travel alarm. Midnight. I lay down. Wrap the covers about me. Too hot. Push them down. Too cold. Something to half sleep, half dream. Ready. Karen Renier. With a name like Karen, who wouldn't be called Rennie? Like Zachary, Rennie was taller than I. Most of the kids at Coopertown High were shorter. Zachary was sophisticated and exotic. Rennie was serious and nice-looking in a completely unspectacular way. His light brown hair bleached in the summer from sun and salt water. His gray-blue eyes peered behind thick lenses and heavy frames. In the dream, he was standing beside me on the open veranda at Beauclair, wearing his white doctor's coat with his stethoscope dangling out of his pocket, looking like a young doctor on TV. He said, "An intern's life is heck." The way he had said it to me at least a dozen times, but in a tone of voice that belied his words. Rennie loved being an intern. He loved the hospital and everything about it. When I first met him, I assumed that he was at the Maximiliana Horne Hospital because it was the only place he could get. Rennie is from Charleston, and there are bigger hospitals in Charleston. There are bigger hospitals in Savannah and Jacksonville, or Richmond, or Baltimore. In the dream, he sat on the white rail of the veranda. "You watch out for this guy who's picked you up. I don't trust him." "I can handle him," I said. You're much too sure yourself, Polyhymnia O'Keefe. Pride goeth before a fall." "I'm not really sure of myself," I said. "It's just a front." It was. I'm sure of myself as far as my brain is concerned. I've got a good one thanks to my genetic background, but in every other area of life I'm insecure. I can talk easily and comfortably with adults, but not with kids my own age. "Watch it," Rennie said, his voice echoing in the dream. "Watch it. Watch it." His warning woke me and brought me back from Beauclair to my bed in the King George. I was hot, so I got up and went out onto the balcony, and the night sky was that extraordinary blue which was deep behind the stars. Greek blue. Blue and gold by day, blue and silver by night. I wondered how much human nature had actually changed in the thousands of years since the Acropolis was built, and if all that had happened to me was so extraordinary after all. I'd seen Rennie every week or so during the past winter and summer, going out with him for barbecue or pizza on his rare free evenings, and listening to him talk about tropical medicine was a good antidote to not being asked to a dance at the Coopertown High School, but that's all it meant until a couple of weeks ago. Running was still an antidote, but for something far more cataclysmic than not being asked to a dance or watching my cousin Kate go off with a bunch of kids, usually including Zan, while I stayed home. Kate is everything Mother and Daddy would have liked me to be. She's not short, but she's shorter than I am, and when she goes to a dance, she doesn't loom over the boys. And she's beautiful, full and beautiful. I'm no longer the same measurement all round. I have reasonable curves both in front and behind, which is a big improvement over the pole I used to be, but Kate has pheromones which draw boys to her like honey. I wasn't exactly jealous of Kate. I didn't even want to change places with her. I was just wistful. The light on the Acropolis was different now than it had been earlier, a deeper, darker blue, with many of the city lights extinguished around it, though not all. Cities never go completely to sleep. While they are alive, that is, I stood looking at the pearly light on the stone until I was chilly, but I went back to bed. Edges of dawn were outlining the windows as I slid into sleep. I didn't wake up till there was a knock on the door. Breakfast. I was wide awake in an instant. Breakfast in Athens. I grabbed my bathrobe and rushed to open the door. A nice young waiter who looked like pictures of Greek statues carried in a breakfast tray, which he took out to the balcony. There was a pot of coffee, a pitcher of hot milk, a dish with croissants and toast, jam, honey, and butter. When we lived on Gaia and school was whenever Mother and Daddy decided we should start lessons, breakfast was unhurried too. We fixed trays and ate in our rooms and emerged into the day when we felt like it. Some of us getting up at dawn, some not till 7 or even 8. But at bedseed, we were on a schedule. We had to get to the mainland in time for that school bus. So, though Mother set breakfast out and we were free to get our own and eat it whatever we liked, we couldn't help bumping into each other. If Mother and Daddy could have gone on teaching us, I might have loved Beneseed as much as I loved Gaia. It was Coopertown and the high school which depressed me. The island itself was home. So breakfast alone in Athens reminded me of breakfast on Gaia, though it was much more elegant. I thanked the waiter in Greek, which was, if not flawless, at least understandable, and he beamed at me. Paracolo, he said, and then he pointed to the Acropolis with the morning light bringing the stones to life, gabbled at me in Greek, beamed again, and laughed. The telephone rang, jolting me. I went back to the room and answered, and why was I surprised when it was Zachary Gray? I just wanted to make sure we were getting together today. He was worried about me backing out? Of course. Have you had breakfast? I'm having it right now, out on the balcony, enjoying the view. We'll have lunch together somewhere then, though I want you to see the view from my balcony first. Can you be in your lobby at 10 sharp? I looked at my watch. It was just after 8. Sure. See you at 10.